All right, we're on the air? Excellent. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to our session about ProTop. And really today, I don't want to focus on a demo of ProTop or a technical discussion of ProTop. I think a lot of you have seen ProTop and you understand what the product is. And if you'd like to have a demo, really contact me afterwards. Today, I really want to talk about why would you pay for something like ProTop? Why pay for monitoring and advanced alerting? All right, and what I want to cover today is that value proposition about paying for ProTop monitoring and alerting. So again, the cost of admission, like my last talk, is participation. So the people in the chat and the people here in the room, please, if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask, please. Happy to answer them anytime. So have you ever felt like this? You know, like you don't know what's happening and your phone is ringing, right? You're just happily working. And then the phone starts ringing and the other phone starts ringing and the other phone starts ringing. And then you kind of look like this and you see your boss is coming down the hallway. And you know that something is wrong, you know? And we tell people, everyone in the world has a monitoring system, and that's their users, right? Your users are your final monitoring system. So when the phone starts to ring and you have no idea what's going on, all you know is there's a lot of angry people. So ProTop exists exactly for this problem, right? It's there to provide you actionable information. It's there to provide you with what you need to recognize problems, to resolve problems before the business is affected. And I always repeat that. If you guys have heard me before, I always repeat the same thing. I don't make changes to the database. I don't tweak parameters. I don't do little knob turning unless there's a positive effect to the business. The database, very important. The app servers, very important. The Linux box, everything, very important. But we make decisions on what to do in a system based on how the business will be positively impacted by that change. Which means we're not there to just churn and do things and change things because the number was 6 and best practices say that the number should be 7. Does it affect the business? Yes. Let's fix it. Does it not affect the business? Should we fix it? Yes, but we don't have to fix it tomorrow. We'll maybe fix it on the next iteration or something that we do. But the more important thing here really is if we see something coming down the pipe, something that's coming, and ProTop will see things proactively and will warn you so that you can act before the business ever notices. So if you're a partner or you're an end user, if you're supporting 5 databases or 5 databases or 5,000 databases, ProTop gives you this single pane of glass view into your entire OpenEdge environment. So, you know, on this particular dashboard, there's probably around 2,000 databases that we're monitoring actively on this particular ProTop dashboard. So ProTop gives you that ability to filter and see only what's important in this single pane of glass view. And it gives you years of trend data, and that's equally important. It's nice to know what's happening in your environment, but it's nice to know how your environment is changing. And there's a lot of value in knowing how your environment is changing. You want to know when you put code into production, how does that affect the database? If you make an infrastructure change, how does that affect the OpenEdge environment? And a lot of times what really happens is the infrastructure people make changes to the infrastructure and nobody tells the database people or the OpenEdge support team. And ProTop will pick up that change and will inform you of that change and say, hey, somebody made a change in the infrastructure. Were you aware of this change? Because it's negatively impacting your performance, which is in turn negatively impacting the users. And ProTop will catch that and you'll be able to say to your infrastructure team, what did you do? Because now my performance is worse, and here is my historical graphing that tells you that my performance is worse. And I think the last thing that I wanted to say in terms of technically what ProTop does is it provides you immediate actionable information. And the key word here is actionable. So when the phone starts ringing, when the problem is happening, you don't have 1 minute, you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have 10 minutes. You need the issue before anybody else notices. And so what ProTop does is it automates a lot of these manual tasks that take minutes and tens of minutes. Imagine just the time it takes to log into your customer's environment and you forgot the VPN credentials and you forgot the passwords, or if it's your own environment, just getting to the right server and beginning your analysis. ProTop does a lot of that automatically for you. And so, I take this example here where we have blocked users. So here we have 3 users that are blocked. And right away we tell you, well, look, here's my blocked users. They're waiting for a record, an exclusive lock. This is the table. And you know what? This is the user who's blocking them. User 2268 on this device and this PID. And so instantly actionable information. And this also means that your first level support can often take care of a problem. It's not always your DBA and your second and third level that need to do this. This information is often enough with a written procedure so that level 1 tech support know what to do to resolve a situation. And that's hugely important because your DBA has a certain amount of time and you want him to do things that provide value to the business. You don't want him necessarily disconnecting users. You can give that to someone who's more junior, for example. Now, the next question is probably the most important question. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares about any of this? And the reality is that the people who sign your paycheck care, right? The person who's up in the org chart, in the organizational chart, that person who's involved and who has to feel the wrath of the user base or of the customer base. These are the people who care about these things, about whether or not the systems are performing optimally, and more importantly, again, making sure that if something happens, that we can resolve it before the business ever even notices. These are the people who care about these things. So, how do we approach this? Well, the first thing we do is we acknowledge that there's a cost to downtime. And really, it's interesting, sometimes we go into customers and we're talking about ProTop, and a lot of them don't know the cost of their downtime. And so we'll do a simple example like this. And you guys plug in your own numbers if you know this, but suppose you have, a warehouse application, and there's 500 people in your warehouse. They make $30 an hour. What's that, 25 euros an hour, or if you take their health benefits and everything all rolled into one. So every hour that they're not working, that's $15,000. And if you're a business like a retail business or an online business or any other type of business like that, or even a manufacturer who brings in orders electronically, there could potentially be lost revenue. So we see this where, if you have an online store, if the person clicks to buy something and they can't buy it, they're not going to come back an hour later. That sale is lost. So calculate, what's your percentage lost sale? So here, my example, I took a company that has 500 million in annual revenue. I calculated $58,000 per hour if it's 500 million per year. And I said, okay, let's assume they're going to lose 25% of the sales for that hour. And again, plug in your own numbers, your customers' numbers. That's $14,500. Gone, just gone. And you know what? If you're an online store, it's 100% of that number. Those customers are not coming back, right? Or 90% of that number. It's an easy calculation, $30,000 for 1 hour of downtime. And if you start having 4 hours of downtime or 6 hours of downtime or 8 hours of downtime, now the things like penalties and reputational costs come into play. And this is a whole other level of cost, because penalties, you might be in the supply chain of your customer, and if he doesn't get the box or the wheel or the chair or the door or whatever part, his manufacturing line stops because he's waiting for parts from you. I mean, look at the chip shortages that are happening right now affecting supply chains. Imagine you affect your customers' supply chain in that direct way. In your contract, I know that there are penalty clauses that you have to add zeros to these numbers for these penalty clauses. And the reputational cost is incalculable. How do you calculate your customer no longer trusting you to be the provider of that service or of that good? You fail them once, you fail them twice, they're going to start shopping around for another provider of that service. And you can't even put a number to that. And I can tell you, even for 1 hour of downtime at $30,000, That's typically more than the cost of ProTop. That's higher than the cost of ProTop. And so it becomes very easy to justify this kind of pricing, this kind of investment in a monitoring and a learning service. So I'll ask you guys, and you can ask on the chat, please, people, what is your cost of downtime? So tell me, who here, A, doesn't know the cost of downtime? A few people don't know the cost of. Does anybody know, any Bs? They know the cost of their downtime is less than $20,000 per hour. Or C or D, more than $50,000 an hour. We had a customer recently where they had a hardware failure, and they estimated the cost of their downtime at $150,000 per hour because they had a hardware failure. Any responses coming in yet? I know they're about a minute behind us, so. All right, so I'll continue here. So it doesn't matter if you're an end user or you're a partner or a reseller, whether you're supporting your own environment or you're supporting customers' environment, it's the same thing. You have a service level agreement, or at least you should have a service level agreement with your users or your customers. And if you're a reseller of software, it's very likely that they have a service level agreement with their customers too. And so you need to respect that. And how many nines? We always talk about 4 nines and 5 nines, and people throw numbers around just like that. Well, 4 nines, which is even less than 5 nines, is only 1 hour of downtime per year. 5 nines is, I think, 5 minutes of downtime per year to hit these 5 nines numbers. So what is your customer's expectation? What is your SLA? Do you have a contractual SLA with your customers that you need to deal with? So now, the next slide is my favorite slide. I have these discussions, and I'm sure a lot of you are gonna recognize this. Well, we haven't had an outage in 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, 15 years. And my answer is always, well, I guess it's your turn next, right? I mean, we see an outage with our new customers. We see major outages multiple times per year, where we get the phone call from someone who says, we have a problem, nobody can fix it, someone told us to call you, can you help us? So that happens multiple times per year. And what's interesting is, as you begin to trust OpenEdge, and it's rock solid. I mean, yesterday I did a whole talk on rock solid OpenEdge environments. It is a rock solid environment. But the flip side to that is sometimes these clients are not prepared for the outage. They've just never had one. They don't know what to do. They don't know what steps they need to take. And that's where working with a partner like White Star Software, in addition to using ProTop for monitoring and alerting, gives you that extra confidence, that extra ability to know that there's a team behind you that can help you if you need that help. All right? And I think the most important thing to say about this point here is that, I won't say in all cases, but in many cases, ProTop would have prevented that outage. So a lot of times we come in, there's a problem, we help the customer fix it, and we say, you know what, when we do the post-mortem analysis, this has been going on for a week or a month. If we had caught it a week ago, we would have fixed it and you would have never crashed. And that happens, I don't want to say every time, but many times that happens. And really, again, that's where the value of ProTop comes. So, and you have a team. So you have a team that supports OpenEdge, right? Someone is responsible for this OpenEdge environment. So equip them properly. Give them the tools that they need to do their job properly. And by investing in your people with these tools, they're going to do their job better, and they're going to do their job more efficiently. And really what's going to end up happening is tools like ProTop, they end up paying for themselves. They end up having a positive return on investment to the business, but also often to the IT department itself, because it means you don't have to hire that extra person. You don't have to hire a whole team of people to support your 10, 20, or 30 environments, because ProTop can support that environment with a smaller team, and the smaller team can afford now to learn more and to have more experience and more skills because they have the tools that come with them, right? So you imagine someone who comes to your house to fix something. Does he come with a screwdriver? Does he come with all the electric tools, right? He has the tools so that he can do his job properly and efficiently. And really, once you start using ProTop in your environment, you will become a better DBA. You will absolutely become better. And you're going to start seeing your OpenEdge environment in ways that you never thought was possible, because ProTop exposes so much data to you, and it gives you the ability to visually correlate data. You can see this data here, and you can see that data over there, and you're like, oh, this is related to that, which is related to that. Oh, let me look at 6 months. Oh, I can see the trend here, and I can see the trend there, and you can visually correlate all of this data very, very quickly in your environment. So you will become a better DBA because you will now have all this data presented to you in a way that at the beginning might be a little overwhelming because there's a lot of data. But as you understand the tools and you learn the tools and you understand the data, you will be, wow, this is an incredible view into my OpenEdge environment. And the last point here I want to make is whether or not you sign up for a support contract with White Star Software, some of our customers do and some of our customers don't, you still have priority access to the experts at White Star Software. So the question is really whether you have guaranteed 24/7 access to my team, or whether you have, we call it best effort access. So you can send us an email and we're happy to answer your emails. And really, if you're supporting an OpenEdge environment and you're seeing something that's maybe a little bit new to you, it's fun. You can ask Simon, right? We exchange emails all the time with Simon, right? You can ask Simon and he'll say, hey, Paul, have you seen this? And we'll exchange emails back and forth. We understand each other. Often we'll both learn from each other. But at the end of the day, we have this community of DBAs who are helping each other all the time. And you'll have that easy, high priority access to my experts. All right? ProTop is always innovating. So the other big thing with ProTop is we have so many customers, so many databases. We monitor so many OpenEdge resources, and we have terabytes and terabytes of data all flooding into our systems. And that gives us this visibility that few other people have, if anybody else has, because we have all of this data. And then we learn things, we learn new things all the time, and we add them into ProTop. And really the big focus here that we have is taking our experience and our knowledge, and rather than trying to replicate it by hiring more people and hiring more people, we're taking that knowledge and we're taking that experience and we're putting it into ProTop so that all of you can take advantage of that knowledge and experience. And that's, again, one of the major things that we try to do with ProTop. Don't hire more people if you don't need to. Use the tools to make your existing people faster, smarter, more efficient with what they do. So we added new insights. We add new graphs all the time. We just added another set of graphs to ProTop. For example, for doing database analysis, growth analysis, which areas are growing, which tables are growing. We added all of that long-term trend data into ProTop so that you can visualize all that data. The next one, for example, that's coming down the pipe is what we call our SLA dashboard. So if you have an SLA with the business, we have a dashboard that shows you how much outage you had on your databases and on your app servers, and how are you doing in terms of meeting the SLAs to the business. Are you at 99%? Are you at 99.9%? And so on and so forth. So you can look at this graph, look at the list, go to management and say, we're at 99.5, we need to improve, or we're at 99.995, we're doing pretty good. All right, so why pay for ProTop? Well, ProTop gives you value at all levels of IT. And you have to think of it this way. It helps the entire IT organization. So if you're level support, you get actionable information. So I showed you the actionable information slide earlier. There's a whole bunch of these alerts that come with ProTop that have a lot of information built into them. So you can send that to tech support. Tech support can call the user, can disconnect the user, can do what you need to do for your business so that we don't have to go to second and third level people for all of these things. All right? If you're a DBA, it automates a lot of the time-consuming work that you're doing today. So all the time that you spend in Promon or in ProTop RT, which is the free version of ProTop, all the time you spend going through all these things and writing little 4GL programs to accumulate VSTs that you display on the screen, ProTop automates all of that. And it gives you the information either in the web portal, if you want the historical, but if you're running ProTop RT, the real-time product, it gives you that information in real time right away on your server. If you're in development, you know, Tom did a talk earlier called ProTop for Developers. So if you missed it, I encourage you to go view the video on the website. If you're a developer, ProTop will help you in your development process so that you fix your problems before they actually go into production. So a really, really important tool to use during your development cycle. And if you're an architect, if you're an enterprise architect, and you need to plan for the next 1 year, 2 year, 5 year growth, having the statistics in ProTop and having 1 year, 2 year, 3 years of historical trend data helps you plan for next year and the year after. What servers do I need to buy? You know, how much memory am I going to need? And again, having access to experts like Tom and Adam, who really are very, very smart on the hardware side of things, you can bounce these questions back to them. Oh, I want to buy a box with 4 CPUs and 16 cores per CPU. Oh, are you aware that you might have NUMA issues? NUMA, what's that? Oh, so having access to people like Tom and Adam gives you a lot of ability to prevent these mistakes when you're making hardware, gives you that ability to plan and budget ahead. And finally, if you're management, one, you get to sleep better at night. You know, knowing that your systems are being actively monitored by a tool like ProTop. But it also means that if you're in IT management, you can meet the SLAs to your business, you can better define the SLAs to your business, you can better measure the SLA to your business, and most importantly, you'll end up with happier users, happier customers. There's nothing worse than systems that are slow and systems that are crashing and your users are complaining, or even worse than complaining, they just understand that the system is not good, it's always going to have problems, and they just don't care anymore. So a tool like ProTop will help you fix those problems, prevent those problems, and have happier users. And here's our current team of DBAs. Questions? Chat? Questions? All quiet on the Western Front? Yes, Luke.
You monitor DBA, dus DBA, ja, voor de client sites. Do you monitor also especially log files?
So the question is, we monitor the database side. Do we also monitor PASOE, app servers, log files? And the answer is yes. So we can monitor, I don't want to say anything, but we can monitor almost anything. Certainly anything OpenEdge we monitor out of the box, but we have the ability to monitor things like Tomcat, you know, web servers, is Apache still up? We have the ability to monitor all of that. And we have log file monitor, so you can monitor any log file of any sort just by creating the log file monitoring, we'll call it the keywords that you're looking for in your log files. So ProTop will come with a definition, for example, for database log files. We do that out of the box, but if you have some application log file, for example, you can set that up.
You can define the queries where you need to look at log files.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of that information, if you go to help.wss.com, a lot of that information is spelled out in technical detail, so you can go look at the details of how you would do it and what ProTop can do and what you can't do. And if ever there's something that ProTop cannot do that you want to do, community.wss.com, and we have a section there where you can make suggestions as to what you'd like to see as an enhancement. Other questions?
Can you also share the information with other alerting tools?
Can it also share the information with other alerting tools? The answer is yes, it can. And in the current version of ProTop that's in production now, we have to script it. Next version of ProTop that's still in beta, but it should be in production, I hope, in Q1 of next year. We basically have the ability to send an alert to any webhook. So if you have a URL somewhere, tell me what the format of the, well, you define the format of the URL yourself. What's the JSON payload? And it'll automatically post that to wherever you want, ServiceNow, Slack, Teams, whatever you want. Other questions? Anything from the chat? Everybody's happy? Thank you very much.